Before we get into this story, tell us in the comment section where you are watching from. If you like a content like this, subscribe to this channel for more inspired content like this. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over the suburban park, where children's laughter should have echoed freely. Instead, 16-year-old Jaden Thompson clutched his basketball nervously, glancing at the tall, manicured hedges that separated the park from the HOA-controlled neighborhood. His little sister Mia tugged at his hand, her braids bouncing, and whispered, "Why is she staring at us like that again?" Mrs. Eleanor Hargrove, the HOA president with a reputation as sharp and unyielding as her perfectly sculpted nails, was standing by the park entrance. She wore a crisp white blouse and beige slacks, her posture rigid, her eyes cold, her mouth twisted into that familiar smirk. "You're not allowed to use this park," she announced, voice carrying across the empty swings and slides. "This area is private property for residents only." Jaden's father, Marcus Thompson, squared his shoulders. At 38, he was a man of quiet strength, tall, broad-shouldered, with deep brown eyes that held both weariness and unshakable resolve. "We live here," he said firmly. "This park is part of the neighborhood. My children have every right to be here." Mrs. Hargrove's smirk deepened. "Not anymore. You know the rules. If you step foot in here again, I'll call the authorities." Her gaze flicked to the security cameras mounted on the lampposts, the ones she'd installed herself. "Consider this a warning." A knot of frustration tightened in Marcus's chest. He had spent months rebuilding the trust and safety of his family after the chaos of moving into this new community. He had expected small-town neighborliness, not arbitrary power plays designed to humiliate his children. Jaden's jaw tightened, and he took a step forward, as if to challenge her, but Marcus put a hand on his shoulder. "Not today," he whispered. He noticed the glare in Mrs. Hargrove's eyes, the kind that had ended careers, friendships, and reputations in their neighborhood. The tension was interrupted by the low rumble of a vehicle pulling up at the park's entrance. A black SUV, sleek and official-looking, came to a halt. Marcus squinted, shielding his eyes against the sun. Out stepped a woman in her mid-40s, wearing a tailored blazer and carrying a folder thick with papers. Her badge gleamed in the late afternoon light. "The neighborhood mayor," they whispered among themselves. "Mayor Rena Carter." Mrs. Hargrove's smirk faltered. Her perfectly controlled posture wavered for a split second. "Mayor Carter," she said, her voice a fraction too high. Mayor Carter's gaze swept over the scene. Marcus, Jaden, Mia, and the assembled neighbors who had begun gathering quietly behind the hedges. "I understand there's been a complaint about park usage," she said, voice calm but commanding. "I came to see it for myself." Mrs. Hargrove opened her mouth, then paused. She was used to controlling the narrative, rewriting rules to suit herself, and silencing dissent with a single-pointed email or HOA notice. But this was public scrutiny, with the mayor herself as witness. Marcus stepped forward, gathering courage. "Madam President, my children and I have lived here for months. We pay our dues. We follow the rules. Yet we've been told we cannot use the park simply because of who we are." His voice did not shake, though his heart pounded. "This is not just a personal grievance. It is discrimination, plain and simple." A few neighbors murmured their agreement. Some nodded subtly, sharing silent approval with Marcus, emboldened by the presence of the mayor. Mayor Carter glanced at the security cameras and then at Mrs. Hargrove. "And you've been enforcing this rule selectively?" she asked, arching an eyebrow. The tension was so thick, it felt almost tangible, like the air before a storm. Mrs. Hargrove's smile returned tighter this time, but it was brittle. "It's policy," she said, voice brittle, her gaze darting to the cameras. Mayor Carter shook her head, flipping open her folder. "Policy is written down, Mrs. Hargrove, and I see no clause barring residents based on race, appearance, or family composition. In fact, there are clear statutes guaranteeing equal access for all residents. Your interpretation is unlawful." Gasps escaped from the crowd. Marcus felt his chest expand with relief. Finally, someone in power was acknowledging what he had known all along. The injustice had a name, and it wasn't going to hide behind polished rules or intimidating authority anymore. Mrs. Hargrove's shoulders stiffened. Her carefully constructed world, the world where she dictated who belonged, who didn't, who could walk where, was unraveling in front of the mayor, the neighbors, and her own pride. Mayor Carter stepped closer, voice low but unmistakable. "You will cease harassing these residents immediately. If you attempt to restrict access again, I will take action against the HOA personally, and I will make sure your actions are on public record." The irony was exquisite. Mrs. Hargrove, who had spent months manipulating rules, who had leveraged her position to humiliate a family for nothing more than their presence, was now powerless under the law. Marcus's hands tightened around Jaden and Mia's. "Thank you," he said quietly to the mayor, "for standing up when it counted." Mayor Carter smiled softly. "I always do, when it matters." She turned to the small crowd, nodding once. "This neighborhood belongs to all of you. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Mrs. Hargrove's smirk finally broke, replaced by a look of stunned silence. Her authority had crumbled, not in court, not through months of appeals, but through direct confrontation and the unyielding presence of truth. Jaden finally let go of the basketball and ran toward the swings. Mia followed, giggling as she climbed the jungle gym. Marcus watched, a lump in his throat. For the first time in months, he felt safe, not just for himself, but for his children. The neighbors, emboldened, began to emerge from behind their fences and hedges, quietly thanking Marcus and Mayor Carter. Whispers of support for the family filled the air, a soft chorus of solidarity rising over the hum of the city. Mrs. Hargrove retreated slowly toward her car, the sound of her heels echoing against the pavement. She had lost control and everyone knew it. The power she wielded so ruthlessly had no defense against truth, resilience, and justice. Marcus knelt by the swings, watching Jaden and Mia play. "You see, kids," he said, voice low but steady. "Justice isn't about fighting with anger. It's about standing tall, knowing the right thing, and having the courage to wait for the moment when it can be recognized." The camera pans out as the sun dips below the horizon, the park bathed in warm twilight. Children laugh freely, neighbors mingle, and the once ominous HOA sign near the entrance seems suddenly insignificant. Justice, in its quiet, resolute way, had been served. But Marcus knows the fight isn't over. Systems like this don't disappear overnight. Yet, for today, for this moment, the Thompson family's place in the community is unassailable. And that, he thinks, is enough.